Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Saturday morning Paranormal Weekend Morning Brew Show. There's a mouthful for you first thing in the morning. I have already run all over God's creation this morning before the broadcast. I was running a little late, and then I get in here, and the sound, of course, doesn't work anymore. So hopefully everybody can hear me. I'm using the old school method. And that seems to never fail me. So, without further ado, federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, and exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes. Let's not talk about the risque videotapes, and the video disc under certain circumstances without authorization of the copyright holder. This is called the Fair Use Act. And is allowed for the purposes of criticism, which is critiquing somebody or a subject, news reporting, factual news that is out there on Fox News, Newsmax, even Google, teaching, which is what we normally try to do here with this channel. We try to keep everybody informed and up to date on things and teach them certain ways of doing things. And parody, which is my favorite, making fun of bullies and the elitist. Okay, which do not infringe upon the copyright under Section 17 USC subsection 107 of the Fair Use Act. Furthermore, Nighthawk High Strangeness, a.k.a. William Nighthawk, me, believes in good faith that it constitutes fair use of any and all content, that's any and all content, to be used for the sole purpose of informing you, the viewing family, of information for educational purposes and general knowledge only per Title 17 USC subsection 107. Whew. All right. Haven't said that in a while. It's good to get that off my chest every now and then. All righty. Also, here's my professional voice. This series presents information based in part on theory and conjecture. The producer's purpose is to suggest some possible explanations, but not necessarily the only ones, to the mysteries we will examine. Okay, all right. Now that that's out of the way. Oh, good God, that's too close. That's too big of a close-up there. Let me get that down to size. Let me put that down to size. Oh, good God. Let's move this thing back about a mile. Back about a mile. All right, let's get that straight. All right. It is freaking cold up here, man. I feel like I'm in the North Pole today. So just letting everybody know, okay? I was going to think about rubbing two sticks together and starting a fire in here, but nah, I don't think I will. I don't need a place to burn down. Anyways, I hope you all can hear me. Let me go to the comments and just see what's going on in there. Joey Z's in the house. How we doing? Karen, good to see you. David, always glad to see David in the house. Hey, Shane's in the house. Awesome, Steven. Good. And let's see. My beautiful wife Tracy's in the house. Okay, BDD Warrior is in the house. That's all, folks. Anyways, Darcy's in the house. Let's see here. I'm going to start posting these because I obviously can't talk this morning already. But we are going to get into the subject of a lot of cool stuff today. We're going to start off with dragons, of course. You know, I've always loved dragons for some reason. It's just cool, you know, the whole concept of them. And the fact that they possibly could have existed because they're in every mythology throughout the world has dragons, you know. So why not, you know? And if they were confused with dinosaurs, then so be it, you know. Hey, they called it what they thought they saw, and we call it what we think we see. So I mean, there could be a differences of verbal communication is all. So, all righty. Let's see here. Darcy's running errands. Tracy and I tried to run errands. Did it get a little crazy and hectic. So, and the wind up here. I don't know, David, if you got wind down where you're at, man, I felt like I was Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. Toto. Okay. All right. Enough for that crazy stuff. All right. Let's get into the meat and the bones of the subject here. I'm going to bring the meat and bones himself on. More bones than meat. Dennis Carroll, my brother from the Southern Mother.
Gee, Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore.
I was waiting for that.
That was quite a blow last night. I tell you, everything was blowing around last night. We had some very bad weather down this way. Had tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. I'm surprised my electricity never went off. I was really surprised about that.
Well, my mic is not hooked up today because, well, it's hooked up to the cord, and my headphones aren't hooked up today because neither one would work. So I think they might have finally died. I mean, this setup is definitely not. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to, unfortunately, invest in something else, which I don't have the money to invest. So, so be it. Yeah.
It's usually if it's something you really need, it's something you can't afford. That's the problem.
Yeah, and you need this kind of sound equipment, you really do. So
I'd be lost without my headphones. I mean, that's the way this. I'm actually doing this, and I'm not on a laptop. I'm on a tablet.
Right.
But it's streaming. It streams good, you know. But I've had some audio problems myself in the past. And I figured out one thing that was going on with me. I always have the backup over here is my phone, you know. And what it was, I had my phone Bluetooth on, which is named after a Viking, by the way, Bluetooth. There you go. That's a little punch in for the Vikings there.
Just putting that out there.
I had my Bluetooth on my phone, and I think that was interfering. See, this is a Bluetooth headset. And I think it was kind of saying, which one do you want me to use here, you know, kind of thing. So I have to turn the Bluetooth off on my phone to keep it from interfering with the tablet. So you run into stuff like that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I've tried everything to get. I was in here trying frantically to get the mic and the headphones to work, and no, I think the wire in it somehow
Yeah,
is
the
broken
cord, I
somewhere.
think.
Yeah,
Because you could tap it a little bit and you would come back a little bit, and I think it's probably the cord or something
yeah,
going on with it. And,
yeah. Well, it is
and then,
what it is. I'm not gonna cry over spilt milk. Anyways,
well, we're gonna be
uh,
dragging dragons around today, huh?
dragons.
Yep.
That sounds like a gang on the West Coast. I think Shane would start that. That'll be the
It
next.
would be
That'll be the next group. Shane will start.
it, it,
Dragons.
it would it would be a sport I don't think I'd want to engage in. No, thank you. Dragging dragons might make them upset. I like that old saying, do not interfere in the affairs of dragons because you are crunchy and taste good with ketchup.
Yeah, yeah, and you might be a little crunchy too, depending on where you live. Because I hear people in the Southwest are real crunchy. So
But
that's just
when you talk about dragons, you got to talk about the Chinese. They are the people of the dragon.
Mhm.
They look upon the dragon, they venerate the dragon as a symbol of the universe, symbol of life in the universe and everything in it. And of course, back in the old days when there was a solar eclipse, the people of long ago thought that a dragon had swallowed the sun,
Mhm.
and they would pray and bang drums and shout and scream, trying to scare the dragon off and make him spit the sun back out. That was their explanation for a solar eclipse. So dragons have been predominant throughout all the history of mankind. And I think, what you said earlier about them being dinosaurs, I think that's a distinct connection. And, when ancient man dug up some of the fossils of dinosaurs, like a
Right.
skull or something, they'd say, oh, look, here it is. This is a dead dragon. We were right. They are dragons. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
confirmed for them a little bit the fable of the dragon.
Yeah.
Um,
But
but
we
like you
were
said, it's
always
found in
told.
every culture in the
Yeah.
world, every
Yeah.
culture.
Yeah. And we were always told throughout our schooling that dragons and man didn't exist at the same time. Yet you see them in every culture depicted with men, by their side.
That's
So
what I
how?
said before, William. That's what I said before. It is impossible that somebody flipped the switch and every dinosaur was gone. I just
Yeah.
don't believe that happened that like that. I mean, I believe there was holdouts. I just still may be holdouts for all we know in this world, especially in the ocean and places like that. Um, but the dragon, I think, is directly linked to these holdouts that men encountered in their travels or in their hunting expeditions or whatever the probability was. Look at the mastodon, which has not been that long since it walked the earth, and
All right.
the saber-toothed tiger, and all these things were leftovers from the dinosaur age. Um, so you got to admit that is basically what they're talking about when they're talking about a dragon. They're actually talking about these dinosaur holdouts.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the T Rex or the Velociraptor. What else could you think would be more of a dragon-like thing? And
Well,
I'm gonna ask you a question, William. Do you know what a cockatrice is?
is that kind of related to a cock and bull?
In a way, yeah, in a roundabout way. A cockatrice is mentioned in the Bible, by the way. There's been a lot of contention over the years just to what the heck a cockatrice is. Well, a cockatrice is supposed to be something very much like a giant lizard or snake with the head of a rooster. You will
So
find
I
this
was close.
on the shields of heraldry in Europe. But the cockatrice is mentioned in the Bible, and it's thought to be what they were talking about in the Bible might have been an ass or a very large snake. Now, when you talk about snakes, you're directly talking about some sightings of dragons, because some dragons are described as being wyvern. You ever heard that name, the wyvern? The wyvern was sort of like a giant snake, or a basilisk, as it was called. A basilisk is a giant serpent, like you would
Yeah.
say would be something like an anaconda or something, only on a bigger scale, big enough to eat a man if he wanted to.
Right.
You're talking about another type of dragon here. Weird stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So that's your cockatrice is a very strange supposed animal with the head of a rooster. But here's the interesting thing. All these many thousands of years they talk about cockatrices, and science has recently come out to find the distinct connection between dinosaurs, reptiles, and birds. We think that some of these dinosaurs had feathers. They had beaks like birds. So there you go. There's a cockatrice for you, which is very
Yeah.
much like the snallygaster we've talked about before.
Yeah. 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 You can see who Shane's favorite is right here. Good morning, brother Dennis.
Good morning. Good morning, sir.
I'll remember that. I'll remember that, little brother. I'll remember that, little brother.
I always did like that name Shane. I wish I had been named Shane. That's one of my favorite names, by the way.
Yeah.
That's very, very true. Asia has not forgotten the legends and stories of the dinosaurs and the dragons. Like I said, that is something they venerate. If you see Chinese New Year, they've always got a dragon in the street and it's running around. They're throwing the fireworks and all that. But
Yep.
the dragon also symbolizes great evil. It holds out the ocean still possibility. Possibility, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there may be some dinosaurs that still exist on certain areas of the world and on the land, not just the sea, like the Momembe in Africa that's supposedly been sighted in the Congo. Until recent years, I think into the 1900s, this thing was supposedly seen, and they described what it was they were describing was actually very dinosaur sounding like thing. It lived in
Yep.
the water, but it came up on land, and a lot of
Yeah.
dragons are supposed to do it. There's your fire breathing dragon. Yeah.
And to just to put it out there too to everybody, um, myth and legend is based off of fact in part in some percentage. Okay. So to say something doesn't exist because you believe it doesn't exist is not my idea of covering it thoroughly enough and investigating it enough to see if it doesn't exist. Okay. Because you have things popping up all over the place in our world that we always assumed didn't exist, yet they did exist. And I'm going to put one up on the screen right now. And I'm sure
Yep.
that followed the channel. Remember this creature that was taken a picture of with the Vatican knowing about it and the Vatican covering it up. Basically,
and look at that thing. That thing looks like something out of mythology.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about when you talk about dragons, there is a dragon still existing in this world. All I gotta say is the Komodo dragon is considered something of a dragon. Have you ever seen one of those things eat? They can eat a deer before you can spit, are they? That thing, I would not want to run up against the Komodo dragon.
Yeah.
Without being armed, because that thing would get you, buddy. I mean, in a hurry if it wanted to.
So
They still exist. These things still exist to that certain extent. What if you were in medieval times, William, back in the 13th century, and you were riding along on your horse and you came upon a Komodo dragon? What would you say? Hey, that's a dragon. I got to kill it or whatever.
right.
It's not that far fetched that these things did not exist. Although, now you take a look at a lot of these drawings and these paintings of dragons. A lot of that, man tends to embellish things a lot. Okay, you give it wings sometimes, you give it different things to make it more fearsome or make it more interesting. We got to put the embellishment aside a little bit and look at where the cortex of this thing is, and it would have to be dinosaurs. It couldn't be anything else, or holdovers, I call it. I don't know if there are that many dinosaurs out there that actually had wings like that, but there could have been, for all we know. We didn't live in the days of dinosaurs. We only find their bones. Um, so
Exactly.
there's a lot of conjecture on dinosaurs as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact to say that they don't exist completely, when we have proof of other creatures that are mythical in their tales of existing at one time. Just take, for instance, the megalodon that we talked about
Mm-hmm.
last week. You know, proof of that existing now. Mermaids, which we talked about last week, proof of those existing now. And actually rewards from certain foreign government for the capture of proof of one of the mermaids. It's there's so many things that we all thought, it's not possible that it could exist. It can't exist. Bigfoot isn't real. Dog man isn't real. Goat man isn't real. Pig man's not real. We're
You
not
got
living
to
in a we're not living
you
in a
got to
world
remember
where we need to
you got to
disclose.
remember my favorite quote, William, that covers all this. Every myth and legend known to mankind is not without its authentic foundation. Began somewhere. It's authenticated to begin somewhere with something. And you hit the nail on the head there. It's we're still seeing evidence of them. It's still proven. This is not just mythological, legendary stories that people told around the campfires. They had actual reason to tell these stories because they saw them.
Right. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And that's the great thing about sitting around a campfire and telling these legends and stuff, because legends aren't told. How is our future generation supposed to, you know, depict in their mind what they're seeing if this creature does exist? You know, so
Hmm.
it's not far fetched. I mean, when you think about the countries around the world, the Mayan culture, Quetzalcoatl, um, my own people's culture with the lake monsters, the Japanese culture, with their dragons, their water dragons and sky
Yep.
dragons. You know, it's all over the world. And at one time, I believe in Russia and China, they had Bigfoot teeth that were one time thought to be dragon's teeth because they were so big. Now, if something like
Hmm.
Bigfoot can exist out there and be undetected, why can't dragons?
Well, like the
Why
Komodo
can't?
dragon, nobody knew the Komodo dragon existed that much until recent times. And
Yeah,
it's found on only certain islands. It's not found on continents that much. But I mean, who would have thought something like that still existed?
yeah,
But said, that's just a story. But you can go see one and watch it eat a deer or whatever it wants to eat. Uh, it's amazing to me that we've overlooked so many of these things and blew them off as being just stories and made up things. Every story has a foundation to it. I don't care what it is. The foundation is what you look for. And as investigative researchers, you don't stop at just the stories. You look for why it began that way. You look at its origin. And when you look at the origin of the dragon, like I said, it has to be the dinosaur. And it has to be that there were holdouts of these things left, that men actually faced these things, fought them, or killed by them for all we know. And they told these stories. And like you said at the campfires, the original first books were this, the tongue.
Yeah.
That's where the first books were. And your people, the indigenous peoples of this country, that's the way they passed their oral history down. I think only the Cherokee had a written language, and it wasn't that long ago that it wasn't originated. Same thing in Ireland, Scotland. These stories are told over and over and over and over again because that's the way you perpetuate these things. That's the way remembrance continues. And they are remembering things that happened to them. That's what they are. I mean, how else can you look at it?
Yeah. Yeah. True. True. Now, getting into the whole, say, medieval understanding and depictions of dragons. Dragons were always depicted with that certain soft spot in their armor, and every dragon culture around the world had that mythology in their mythology about that certain weakness, that certain spot on them physically that was vulnerable enough to kill them, to slay them. Even my own people had the culture of the lake monster, which was this giant, legless dragon type looking monster, like snake, that lived in this lake, and only the sacred arrows that were blessed by Spider Woman could basically, be blessed by her through ceremony and ritual, and only that certain arrow hitting that one certain spot, that little spot of diamond underneath the belly of it, would kill it. And it told me,
these things, William, the reptiles have scales. Look at the turtle, how tough its shell is. Okay, these things were as tough as a Waffle House steak. Okay, you didn't just walk up and kill one that easy. You had to find a vulnerable spot. That makes sense when you think about it. There's got to be a weak spot somewhere.
Right. Yeah. So and you hear about, like you said today, in today's culture, you hear about sightings of certain types of lizards that were believed to be extinct, cited in recent times, like Makala Mabende from Africa, from I think it's the Ugandan forest area of Africa. I think so. I can't remember exactly. The Congo area. But you also have, like, Ogopogo, Chessie, Loch Ness, Champ. Yeah, you have all these lake monsters, that could be misconstrued as the water dragons, and which is not far fetched. Which means if they're in legend and stuff, they've been around for a long time, and means they're still here.
Look at Nessie, William. Nessie's been described as being seen on land as well as in the water.
Yeah.
They've seen crossing the road. That sounds like a dragon, does it not? I mean, dragons, there were water dragons and there were land dragons, and they could go on either way. They could get in the water if they wanted to. They wouldn't prevent them. Although some supposedly existed, like the sea monster, more or less in water, But you had land dragons like the wyvern and all these other ones, more like snake-like creatures. So you had different classifications of these things. That's interesting too. And look at our modern day stuff. Look at the chupacabra. That sounds like a dragon. It sounds like a small dragon, doesn't it? When you hear its description, it sounds like something like a dinosaur would look like, a small velociraptor or something.
Yep. And then you think about some of the biblical aspects of dragons in the Bible, how it's basically describing demons or Satan. or evil,
Reptile.
in incarnated in dragon form. Um, it often makes me think of the reptilian alien species called Dracon. Okay, and the draconian species is a lizard species that could have been misconstrued for a dragon or a gargoyle or some kind of mythical creature at the time.
Or descendants of dragon type
Yeah,
creatures.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Uh-huh. And that is why in Western culture more so than Asia, we got to leave Asia out of the picture here for a minute because they commemorate dragons. But in the
Mm-hmm.
Western cultures, uh, the dragon is looked more upon as being evil. It's a symbol of evil. The reptile, the snake in the Garden of Eden, and all this symbolic thing when it comes to reptiles is associated with evil.
Yeah.
And that would definitely
Even
go if you ran into a race of beings like that weren't very nice to you. You
yeah,
would definitely give them the reputation of being the bad guys.
yeah. Even in the outback of Australia, and I'm sure Tombstone's probably heard this legend too, and this sightings down there of this humongous lizard that's seen along the creeks and stuff of the outbacks where the Aboriginals live. And there's legends of them that looks like an Allosaurus, like a small T-Rex, standing about 25 feet in height or 20 feet in height. You know, if you're having modern day sightings of stuff like that, that means that either somebody is smoking some serious drugs, or it's an actual physical sighting that should be
Yeah.
documented and recorded as a physical sighting, and it should be researched further. So now I know Josh Gates, our buddy Josh Gates, has been to the outback of Australia looking for this lizard that they heard legends of and sightings of, and they did have a lot of activity around them that was unexplainable.
Uh-huh.
So it's probably
Yeah. No
not that
wonder.
far fetched.
Yeah. But going back to Asia for a minute, supposedly that is one of the reasons why the Great Wall of China was built, not only to keep out the Mongolian hordes, but was also supposedly to keep out some of the dragons that lived in the forest around it. Uh, Supposedly to keep them from raiding the villages, and also with the tigers and stuff like that too. So it had a dual purpose, not only against invaders, but against marauding type animals or beasts. Um, and going back to the Bible, what is the Antichrist described as? The beast. And this beast is not like a dog man or a Sasquatch. This beast that the Bible is talking about comes out of the water. It has heads like a hydra. And what is a hydra? Hydra the dragon. Okay. Uh, so you're talking about some very heavy duty mythological type sounding stuff. Um, so this is found prevalent in cultures throughout the world, not only just in
Mhm.
Western and Asia cultures, but look at, like you mentioned, the people of the Aborigines of Australia have these stories. The
Yeah.
indigenous peoples of North America and South America have these stories. Look at the dragons
Yeah.
that lived in the mountains. You've heard of those, the mountain dragons that come down
Yeah.
out of the mountain. Uh, they were like a force that they thought that had to be reckoned with. You had hurricanes, you
Mhm.
had storms, you had dragons. To deal with. And like I say, I think this is going back to a racial memory, if that's what you want to call it. This embedded in these people, these not only the indigenous people worldwide. These memories remain because these things actually happen to them. You know, look at that
I mean, right
reptilian.
here is a
That,
two-legged.
that looks like a
Yeah,
dragon walking around. Look at it.
exactly. That looks like a dragon definitely walking around, or a gargoyle. They could have been
Mm-hmm.
misconstrued, because who can tell what our ancestors were looking at and describing. They described it to the best of their knowledge at the time. Their verbality that they had at the time, I'm not even sure if that's a word, verbality. Okay. Their verbalage at the time, basically, is describing what they could interpret, to me, that's a lizard man, clearly, but to them, it could have been a dragon or a dragon man, or, it
Take a
could
look
have
at
been
that
anything.
reptilian. Take a look at that reptilian in a minute, William. If you were to run into a bunch of guys like that, you might be in big trouble. Okay. You're looking at a predator that would be equal, if not more so, than man.
Oh, God,
Being
yeah.
able to kill. I would think twice before I want to take him on, wouldn't you? I mean, come on.
Yeah. I'd like
Uh,
to have his abs.
mhm.
I think I should start doing sit ups.
And those arms on the guy. I mean, my God.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
you're talking about something that would be a direct threat to the existence of man out there. Okay,
Yeah.
whichever way
Exactly.
you look at it, modern and ancient. Not
Yeah.
going back. That would be considered the bad guy. Man would be leery of that because he already is familiar with the dragon and the dinosaurs.
Yep.
He would say, "Hey, this is part of that, that evil, that we need to
Yeah.
fight." And that is why, and I've often said this, that distinct connection between reptiles and the demonic. Why do they keep describing demons as reptilian looking, And the demons I have seen have taken on these images. They've taken on these forms. They're not they're not good looking guys like you and me, okay? Uh, they're bad looking dudes. You don't want to mess with them.
Oh,
Making up new words is fun, William.
yeah.
Okay, well, Shakespeare was good at that, Lord.
Yeah. I've
Shakespeare
already
was
made
good.
it. Yeah. 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 I meant to say verbiage, but it came out also. Oh, well. Hey, it happens. It happens. So, it's, perfect. So, but, yeah, I just think that, the whole with man and the Bible talking about dragons, and you know all kinds of old texts and stuff talk. Every timeline of our past has some type of dragon depicted in it. Uh, you go to the Renaissance times, the Age of Iron, the Age of Steel, the Barbarian Age, the the
Mhm.
basically Neanderthal age. Every one of the cultures around the world and each times depicted some type of large lizard that they believed was a dragon. So I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not going to call thousands upon thousands of people things in the past a liar,
No,
because
no.
that's not my place to do that.
Uh-huh.
I'm not here to pass judgment, but
But unfortunately, William,
there's got to be a reason.
modern science doesn't see it your way. They don't believe that. They don't. Oh, no, the man never existed with a dinosaur. And yet, even I think in Australia, they have actually found footprints of men and dinosaurs that were at the same age and everything. There's the evidence right in front of your face. But they don't want to believe
Mm.
that. It doesn't fit their patterns. Like the giants we've talked about so many times, another favorite subject of mine that's found worldwide, like dragons. They
Yeah,
ignore these things. My house are protected by
yeah,
core of insulation.
yeah.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good. Mine are too. I keep mine under cover here.
About,
Yeah, just in case
yeah.
I need them.
Uh, I used to be that well insulated at one time. But now
Yep.
I'm kind of the reason my abs aren't really there is the fact that I don't do sit-ups and stuff. It's the fact that I just don't give a shit. I mean,
Remember that old saying, if you don't use them, you lose them. Okay. But anyway.
I'm too old to worry about abs.
Yeah. That's like that old saying, that said, I'm too old to fight you, I'll just shoot you, that's the way the old guys look at it.
Yeah.
I can kind of understand where they're coming from.
My wife Tracy's not doing too well today, so keep her today because doing too well today. She's had a lot of situations coming up physically that she's trying to get. It's so hard when doctors don't want to work with you. It really is. But yeah, she's having a rough morning. Just to let everybody know that's in the chat talking to her. So let's see here.
Hope you get to feeling better, Tracy. Hope you get to feeling better.
Yeah, we had to race around this morning and get some things done before the podcast, and then it takes its toll.
Yeah.
Anyways,
on the subject, what makes you? I want to ask you a question about dragons. Why do you think they're depicted so many times as breathing fire? Has that got something to do with hell and Satan, or what do you think?
I think it could be of what the religious how do I want this religious deities, religious icons of the time that depict that way. The only thing that they could associate with hell would be fire, fire or stone, and it's very well, that dragons live caves, and in the old days of the Old Testament and stuff, where was hell located? It was beneath you in a cave, far, far in the bowels of the earth. It was hell. Even in Greek mythology, Hades was in the bowels of earth.
That's where the land dragons are described as existing in caves. You hear a lot about the dragons coming out of caves and all that. That's an interesting connection. Here's another thing. The basilisk I mentioned earlier and the cockatrice could actually kill you with their eyes by looking at you, turn you into stone. Sort of like the Medusa, they could turn you into stone. So they were given supernatural powers to a certain extent, like the breathing fire and all that stuff. They have a supernatural aspect to them as well. That's an interesting thing about dragons. As you talked about the dragons in the Bible, how is Satan described as that old serpent, the dragon, the devil? So he's not. So the dragon is looked upon, like I said earlier, except in Asia, is looked upon as an evil thing, and of course it would be given supernatural talents. I think by men.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. True. Very true. And I do believe what Ann says here about it, the holy fire as being cleansing.
What Lindsay says there about the the holy fire. That is people that, here's an interesting thing. Some people have embraced the dragon as their personal symbol of a goodness and not evil. Some people look upon a dragon as being maligned by history and everything, and that they're good. But mainly that is only been here in modern times that dragons have been looked upon because of the stories that have been written in some of the novels, the more modern day and recent novels and movies. They give the dragon a better spin than the older people, the older generations did years ago.
Yeah, these guys are killing me in chat.
I've been there,
just so you know.
I know
they're killing me in chat.
Yeah.
A few of my exes had the power of killing with their eyes. Yeah.
I actually, once upon a time, I actually dated Medusa, but that's another story for another time. Okay. Anyway.
All right, now let's keep this in a proper focused program here. Let's see. Joey's gonna get in a lot of trouble if his wife sees that. Yeah, Joey,
well,
you
yeah,
might want to hide.
I go along with the creationist a little bit on that. The fact that I don't believe all the dinosaurs died out in one day and that was it. I just don't buy. I don't buy that. That's just too far. That's more far fetched than dragons. Okay, in my book. So the creationists, I think, have a little more leeway. That's what I said about science. That really bugs me about science is those blinders they put on. They can see only what they want to see, and they disregard everything else. How stupid of an attitude that is. I mean, how stupid. You should have an open mind. I don't mean to have your brain fall out, okay? Let's not go that far, but you should have an open mind and try to see things in different light and different perspectives. Science doesn't believe that.
Right. Yeah, agreed. Definitely agree with you on that 100%. So what about you hear about like how Russian scientists cloned the woolly mammoth and all that? What if, say, our scientists and throughout the world, other scientists actually tried cloning dragons? What if they got a hold of the DNA and did that? It's not that far fetched from what the movies, Jurassic Park depicted, really.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. You remember in the movie Jurassic Park, they actually got DNA from a mosquito that bit a dinosaur, and the mosquito was in amber. Remember that? It's not that far fetched that you couldn't do that with modern day science now. We may see the dragon exist again one day. You never know. Or if it's still there, hidden somewhere we don't know about. That's another possibility. There's a lot of undiscovered and unexplored lands on this planet, not just the oceans, and that would be where the sea monsters would be hiding out. And the sea monster is another type of dragon. Okay. But anyway, it's not the possibility that it hasn't died out completely, but if men can bring it back again for study and exhibition and all these things to understand what it was, that would be an interesting fact. But don't forget what happened in Jurassic Park. Things didn't go quite the way they planned, so you got to be careful. Yeah, there have been stories.
Chris, you are correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, you are correct. Nahanni Valley. Those of you, if you don't know about the Nahanni, let me set my coffee down. The Nahanni Valley is somewhere a little bit north and east, or not northeast, northwest of the Yukon area where a lot of the gold prospectors were. And the Nahanni Valley is said to have things because it's encompassed around. There's a river that goes through it and around with mountains. It's almost like if you consider, like if you take a radar dish and you turn it upside down on the ground, it looks like a bowl. That's kind of what the Nahanni Valley is. It's one way in, one way out, and it has been said to have cryptid creatures that are ginormous in size. And we're talking from Dogman to Bigfoot to giant spiders, to woolly mammoths. I mean, it's just all kinds of stuff, So it's not that far fetched to think that there could be some kind of
part of the legend of the Nahanni Valley, William, is the headless bodies being found. And what was one of the distinct ways that dragons killed people? They used to bite their heads off. I find that interesting. If you have big spiders in a place like that and big snakes, you certainly would have the possibility of dragons being in a place like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it could be just, a collective area where, science just hasn't gotten in far enough to explore it.
Right.
I would have loved to explore it. I would love to get up there. I would love to get up there right now in my condition to go up and explore it.
That's always one place I wanted to go. Definitely. It's on my bucket list.
Of course, I'd bring enough firepower to knock down a bull elephant, but that would be beside the point. Probably 458. But what it is, it's there's certain pockets. There's certain pockets around the world, Dennis.
Have you ever seen that movie, William? Island in the Sky, the John Wayne movie. Have you ever seen that where they crashed somewhere up in the Yukon? You remember that? I don't know if you ever seen that. But the reason they call it Island in the Sky, when they crashed in that area, the plane went down, it was like another world, I mean, it was so far removed from everything, That's why it was called Island in the Sky. Anyway, the Nahanni Valley reminds me very much of that. It's just a place that's set aside from the world where there could be a possibility of anything going on there, It's an interesting thought.
Right. Exactly.
That's very true, Stephen. The Tasmanian tiger will probably come back. I hope I see it. I like to see it.
Yeah, there is something.
I talked with a lady in William. I talked with a lady in Tasmania. Tasmania, I think, was in part of Australia. I forget now where at. And she said one night driving through wherever she was going, she had a Tasmanian tiger cross the road in front of her. She said, "I know what he was." She said, "I saw the stripes on it. I know exactly what he was." And he crossed the road in front of her. She seemed very sincere about it.
Right. There have been reports of them messing with the cloning possibility for the Tasmanian tiger. But I mean, who's to say if they did or didn't? They would only know, apparently. But the government facilities that do that kind of stuff.
The bunyip is sort of like I've always thought of the bunyip as being sort of like the what's the name of it up in North Carolina? The very cryptid, like a cat, cryptid cat. I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, that's sort of like the bunyip. The bunyip, I've always thought described as more like a mutated type panther-looking thing.
Yeah. I'm going through the comments right now.
Yeah. I wonder if anybody's ever done a remote viewing on the Nahanni Valley out there. It would be interesting if anybody's ever done anything like that on that.
Well, I think we seem to know some might possibly do that. So, it's kind of maybe a question for the chat to put out. Is somebody going to be able to do a Nahanni Valley?
The Nahanni Valley would be one place I would think you might. Wouldn't be that far to get to a dragon.
We got some really bad winds here, so I might have to call this a little short today. We got some really bad wind. So, but eh,
I think it's breaking up your signal a little bit or something.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely doing something with the signal here. I don't know. I might have to cut the. We got the gist of what we were talking about, and of course, some people in the chat got to voice stuff. So, as Dave on his best behavior, I'm really surprised David Lester was on his best this morning. Surprises me. He's got something up his. Probably gonna instigate him enough to get him going. Oh, anyways, yeah. Don, here's a good comment too from Tombstone. It's all yeah.
Yeah, you're breaking up kind of bad, William. I don't know if it's the wind doing that or what. Your signal is getting real choppy. If scientists do manage to bring back extinct species, we may need to prepare. My mistake, anyone? I wouldn't mind. I've heard that they have actually dined on mammoth steak in certain parts of Russia, where they have found they dug up mammoths and actually they were still fresh in the frozen permafrost, and they actually dined on it. Wouldn't that be an interesting dinner? Well, man is always trying to play God, bringing stuff back and trying to do things like that. Of course, that was the basis of a lot of the 1950s sci-fi movies, with the radiation turning giant ants and stuff like that on us. If we're not careful, we might end up with a situation like that. That's for sure.
Right. And then I'm sure that Shane didn't mean humans are gods. I think he meant humans or God. You know, it's a question for creating and doing the cloning and stuff. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the whole creating. I think movies like Jurassic Park and King Kong movies. Yes, yes, you are right, Thomas. You are definitely right, brother. Everything comes out of Hollywood is soft disclosure to a point. Um, well, just take for instance the recent train derailment up in Palestine, Ohio. Um, what a week before that was the of a movie from called White Noise that depicted the same exact thing. It was even filmed on the same. So everything coming soft disclosure of what we can also expect future. So
It
back
may
to what
be that they're
we
trying to
discussed
set us up
last night's
to
theory. You know,
they're trying to set us up to acclimate us to these things actually being found or finally being revealed. Like I said before, Hollywood seems to have a secret code going on of some sort. Or some of these Hollywood writers
yeah,
are kind of punching us that way. And it's not maybe Hollywood itself, but it's the writers that write these things. They've done their research well, and they may know a lot more on some of these things than people realize. If
yeah,
you're going to write anything, you have to research it thoroughly, or you're not a good writer. You're not going to get paid for what you do. You're definitely, if you're a screenwriter, if you don't do your homework, you're not gonna finish right, and they're not gonna use you. So the ones that come out with like Jurassic Park and all that, these people have done their research. You got to hand them that. You got to say that they know what they're talking about usually, most of the time.
And some of the stuff
Watch
they
out for
talk
the
about
chocolate rabbits.
just burns my brain cells.
Like I said, they're trying to climinate us. They're trying to get us to understand, I think, in some ways, that, hey, this may be real and you're going to see it one day, kind of thing. So don't be shocked when you do, kind of thing. That thing, I think, is going a lot with the UFO disclosures and stuff. What are they trying to pull over? You know, or they already know more than we know. Are they just trying to get themselves off the hook by trying to come a little clean with it? You have to wonder what their ulterior motives are on that. Or he said it's the beady eyeballs. Huh? I think he's talking about his
That's why
dog.
he's behaving himself. Well, I hope the wife doesn't have 3 sets of beady eyeballs. Oh.
Well, that's very true, Country Boy. That's one thing I've always admired about the series Supernatural. They did some although they went off on some really wacko theories on things, they really did their research when it came to the occult very well. I've always admired that because they knew what they were talking about in many aspects of it. But they went out on some weird theories about God having a sister and all this bunch of weird stuff. But that's where they kind of lost me on it. But their research was par excellence.
You got to give them credit, Dennis, because in that series they were thinking outside the box, which we always try to do all of our podcasts and stuff and all of investigations. Outside the box, outside the realm of possibility. The realm of possibility, and maybe just maybe we find that connection. So that's
they were trying to do that, I think, but you can overdo it in the wrong way sometimes if you're not careful. I don't know. They got a kind of a little sacrilegious to me in their aspects on some things, but that's Hollywood. Okay, Hollywood's gonna do that kind of stuff anyway.
Yeah. Well, we have been over an hour, and
my head off.
Yep. She needs eyes in her head dealing with David. Into the Wampus Beast.
Thank you. I could not think of the Wampus Beast. I don't know why I couldn't think of it. But that sounds like the bunyip to me a little bit. The kind of the correlation between them.
Yeah.
I've actually been looking around in North Carolina mountains years ago for the Wampus Beast. Didn't find him. Well, he didn't find me. Whatever. We came out even on it.
Probably better off.
Yeah.
Probably better off that he didn't find you.
I would have talked him to death.
We don't need Dennis to be a squeaky toy. Yeah. Well, we don't need a squeaky toy.
That's what I was telling somebody the other day. If I could actually meet up with Bigfoot and we could communicate, what an interesting conversation that would be. You know?
Yeah. There'd be a lot of verbiage, that's for sure. See, I didn't make up a word that time, Lori. Verbiage is a word.
There you go.
Anyways, it's been a great hour and some odd minutes now. Is there any other things you want to cover today, Dennis, while we're thinking of it? This is kind of just a wing it wing it Saturday. I didn't really plan anything other than the dragon discussion. I think we pretty much made that
Hey,
extinct. So,
we could talk a little bit about the connection between dragons and gargoyles. You're still in the reptilian type thing there. That's an interesting connection.
yeah, sure.
Look at those gargoyles. They look kind of like dragons. You know, to me, I've always thought they had those dragon-like wings to them. You know, uh, that would have to have been some type of medieval influence on the gargoyles. Would have been
Right.
the dragons, definitely. Um, dragons
Now
are very fascinating.
there was a case. There was, I don't know if Stephen can look this up. There was a case in Texas where a gargoyle um, flying from some kind of like cave or whatever. I think it was in southern Texas, and you know they got a really good look at this thing, and just, so I don't know. Maybe he can research that, and we can actually do that more thoroughly in another podcast.
But you know,
And
the
bring him in.
the gargoyles
Uh,
are tied directly
uh,
to fallen angels. That's what they're supposed to be. The demons are fallen angels. So you have that connection. You know, it was a medieval type gargoyles and all that. The demons, and of course, the reason why they're on those churches is they're not only just water spouts, very decorative water spouts for the gutters, but they were also supposed to be put on there to fool demons and believing, oh, there's demons already here. Let's go on to the next place. We'll bother them. So that was sort of a kind of camouflage type thing that was going on with the church. But you know, there've been down through the ages. There's been supposedly many ways to guard yourself against demonic influence. One of the ways, I don't know if people have ever heard this, but is that you can actually put a small mirror facing out in every window of your house, and that would supposedly keep demons out too, because they would see themselves in the mirror and think it was another demon already in there. Demons are not supposed to be very smart, according to these people. You can easily trick them. I don't think they're that easily tricked, but
yeah,
anyway. Um, but that's where the mirrors came in at, you know, and mirrors have a fascinating thing. And, you know, there's a tie-in with the dragons in the mirrors. A lot of the dragons are supposed to have mirrors. And whether that has something to do with an interdimensional connection type thing or what, I don't know. But back in medieval times, one of the most expensive pieces of hardware to own was a mirror, by the way. And I think it was interesting that they tied that in with dragons as well.
yeah, true, very true. Uh, I'm trying to look for a picture of that I had that would help out with the description of the gargoyle, but I don't seem to find the file on my computer. So let me just keep on looking here, and if you guys can keep on talking, that would be great. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to be able to find it soon enough. But let's see here.
That's the way it goes when you're looking for something, you can't ever find it. If you wasn't looking for it, you'd find it right off.
Well, I mean, it's just something that I thought would be good to pull up, just to show some kind of a depiction of what maybe people are seeing. Um, and this is a depiction of beings that live underground, okay, and in caves and stuff. The lizard species of, some people call them aliens. I personally think that they are just evolved uh, from one strand of lizard from back in prehistoric times. I think they, like us, they evolved along with us, and just stayed hidden because their population wasn't that big. But this depiction would pretty much cover the looks of a gargoyle.
Oh yeah.
If you would, you know what I mean? Um, some of them are depicted with wings. Some of them are not depicted with wings as far as gargoyles go. Some of them have 3 eyes. Some of them have 4 eyes. Some of them have 2 eyes, and some of them have 1 eye. So it's not that much to think
Kind of like the Cyclops
that.
of old. Well, like I said earlier, mankind tends to embellish things or give them wings when they not necessarily have wings. And the first time I ever heard about the chupacabra, that was the first thing that came to my mind. Well, that sounds like a gargoyle a little bit, the way it was described. And I'm not talking about the chupacabra that sounds more like a coyote with mange. I'm talking about the ones that were first described as having, like an almost dorsal fin like on them, or a line of dorsal fins going down their back, and they had a lizard-like look to them. It sounded very much like a gargoyle. I mean, some of them supposedly chupacabras have wings too, by the way. So that was a definite, I think, thing that made me think about gargoyles. Gargoyles are a fascinating thing, although they're mostly just, as a matter of fact, I have a gargoyle. You can't see that. I have one sitting over here looking over my back right now. Rather large gargoyle. Um, they're very fascinating things, but I always like medieval stuff. The medieval people had a very strange mindset. But if you were going to pick a legendary demon, it definitely would look like a gargoyle.
Yeah.
Oh no, we can't talk about the. I go along with
David,
you
I
on
don't
that,
think
David. That
bro.
woke stuff, yeah.
No, no,
Watch out, you
we
get canceled if you get into the woke
although
stuff.
we want to, we can't. Yeah, yeah. Although we don't want to be canceled and don't want to be censored to the point where because this is all stuff we all enjoy talking. And we all know it is what it is. Okay.
I'm
They
Carpe Nocturne. I'm definitely nocturnal.
Yeah, definitely.
That's where I do all my research at night, more or less.
Um,
Yeah, that's interesting. Laura, since you talk about bending keys and all that, I have to get it out and show it to you one day. I have a very interesting thing happen at a house that I was investigating, and it turned out there was some demonic activity in that house. And while we were investigating, we heard a noise in the kitchen. I went in the kitchen, and there was a bent fork sticking in the wall. I still have the fork over here, and it was bent. It looks almost like it's melted. And this was a demonic thing that happened, and it was driven into this wall. And I took it out and looked at it. Like I said, it was the metal had some strange looking properties to it, and whatever was done to it. But the interesting thing was the lady that owned the house said, "That's not one of my forks. I've never seen that fork before in my life. So where did it materialize from?" Which is a very interesting thing. I have to show it to
hmm.
everyone on one day. But anyway, I have it tagged here in my museum. But they're supposed the reason I bring this up when you talk about bent keys and all that. Supposedly that's not only the attributes of poltergeist for bending things, but demons supposedly can do that as well. Um, there used to be a magician named Uri Geller, and I call him a magician. He claimed to be a psychic, but I think he was more or less a magician who could actually bend keys. You remember that, William? He could bend keys and
Oh yeah.
forks and spoons, and all that stuff. But I've seen the demonic do it. Put it that
So
way.
here's something I wanted to. Here's a picture I was looking for when we were talking about water dragons.
Oh
It could have been
yeah. It's like
a depiction of
like
that.
a giant tadpole. Yeah. That's it. And we talked about that the other night. Look at the size of the boat compared to that thing. That's scary looking.
Yeah, definitely. And then you have things like I said, like that washing up, So obviously, people are describing things as they see them, and it's just a matter of time before we come across the right thing that is being depicted. I'm gonna try and look for that one I have that I wanted to show everybody. Let's see here. Oh, come on! I know I've got it.
Usually, William, when something washes up on the shore, and I've walked on a lot of beaches, when something washes up on the shore, it's nothing usually ancient. It's something that's been alive recently. That's all you can say, whatever it may be.
Yep. And now my phone's acting up. That's funny. My phone never acts like it.
Magical creatures.
This is
dragons have magic. Maybe they're hexing us today.
Believe amount of time it takes to find a simple picture with the description I was saying. Here. And I'm not seeing it. Come on. Where is it? There we go. Remember this.
Oh, yeah. It's very much like a gargoyle in some aspects, isn't it? I've always thought about that too, the Mothman being sort of like almost. And some gargoyles are depicted. Here's another interesting connection, William. Some gargoyles are depicted as all having insectoid type features, like an insect.
Yeah. I mean, why couldn't the people be describing a gargoyle and be seeing that at nighttime, thinking it's a gargoyle? I mean, who knows? Depending on the lighting and stuff, and the light reflecting off of that kind of a creature, they could be thinking they're seeing a gargoyle. I mean, I would,
I've read many reports where people have cited insectoid type creatures that, and in biblical descriptions, the grasshopper and all that is described as almost being like reptilian in some ways. So you've got a strange mixture between like that, the reptile, and you've got a strange mixture between that and the insects. Have you ever seen the actual face, William, of a spider? Close up. You're talking about something that looks like something that would be like a dragon or a gargoyle or some demonic looking thing. That fits the bill. Even a close up of a spider or an ant is amazing.
Right.
What these things look like. They would be something out of a nightmare, definitely. But there's another distinct connection.
Let me see if I can find it.
Another distinct connection between reptiles, insects, and aliens. You know, look at some the descriptions of a lot of these aliens and stuff. They have a insectoid and reptilian type look about them. Uh, so what's going on with that? You know, if you were to look at nature around you, the biggest threat to mankind would be found in the insect world. If they decided to overbreed one day, they would destroy us. That's what's so important about bats.
Yeah.
Although bats are not that great to have around, you wouldn't want one in your house. Bats eat their weight every night in insects. If it weren't for bats, birds, and stuff like that, we would be knee deep in insects. They would consume the world eventually. Just like the birds with Alfred Hitchcock with the birds. You remember that? If the insects decided to do
Yep.
that, they would wipe us out. So you know, the insect would be a threat to mankind as
Yep.
well. So, just like the dinosaurs were once upon a time,
Yeah.
a big threat.
I'm still trying. I'm still trying to find that one picture I had. It was an actual picture of of it in flight. Let me see here. I got to be coming up on it here soon. Give me a second, everybody. I definitely want to show you all this picture. You've seen it before. Um, it's the perfect depiction we have described seeing by eyewitnesses flying around. You know, right there. Why couldn't that be a gargoyle? If I was looking at that time of the night, dusk, and it shadowed like that, I assume it might be a gargoyle.
Yeah, if
That's
you were
just my
to
opinion.
see something like that, you would say
But
that's like a flying gargoyle to me. You know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, why not? So let's see here. What was that
But
question?
here's the interesting
Joey
thing,
Z,
William.
what do you guys
Here's
think
the
about
interesting
those
thing
Chicago
that
Mothman?
I have actually seen reports where people would say they would see a gargoyle on the church, and the thing would suddenly move and fly off. So if you were a real smart gargoyle and they were already statues of you, you could just, blend in. You could sit there with a statue. Nobody'd ever know the difference, until you got ready to move. That would be
Yeah,
a smart way to do too. But I've heard reports of people actually
yeah,
seeing the gargoyles move and fly off. Um, I think there was a cartoon
yeah,
series about the gargoyles one time years ago. But anyway, gargoyles are a fascinating thing. But supposedly, according to legend, the gargoyles are a race of beings that swore one day they would replace mankind on this planet.
right. Which sounds like the reptilians. I'm sorry, and I know I bring that up a lot, but it sounds like the race. It really does. So,
Yeah. Well, there's a connection. There's a definite connection there.
Jersey Devil.
Yeah, Stephen, that was the Chicago O'Hare Airport, actually, where a lot of sightings have been seen. Lon Strickler has investigated that thoroughly. A lot of Mothman sightings have been seen there, and to this day still continue to be seen around O'Hare Airport in Chicago. There seem to be hot
Yeah.
spots for these things. I don't know. But there's been several sightings of Mothman in Georgia, not only just West Virginia, but in several parts, and in Texas as well. So he gets around. Uh, and look at the Owl Man in Britain.
Yep.
That would be
Yeah,
considered
there's
something
there's
like a
all kinds of.
gargoyle.
Yeah, definitely could be considered. I mean, it plays tricks on you when it's poor lighting, and your mind tries to compensate. Your brain's trying to compensate for the part of what you're seeing not being there. So your brain's trying to make it kind of like taking the half that you see, moving it over, flipping it over like an open page, and making the second half. And so you're basically looking at something, and you're trying to figure out what it is. It has wings. It has red glowing eyes. It stands, 8 feet tall. It's got a tail. You know, it's a gargoyle. But other people are going to see a Mothman. Other people are going to see a reptilian. Other people are going to see just, some kind of alien, I mean,
and you're getting reports from some people, William. Some people, and there have been many reports of people saying flying dragons.
Yeah, exactly. Especially during cloudy days, it almost makes you wonder.
Yeah, if you were looking at a different perspective of something in the sky, and and it looks far off, it may be bigger than what it really appears to be. Your perception can be off when you're looking at the sky. You have to take that into account a lot of times to what you're seeing. Just like that first picture you showed, you can clearly see the legs on that thing. You're looking at something that's very much like a man or a human in some aspects. And look at all the reports of flying witches in Mexico. You remember that? They actually had some pictures of some of these flying witches on rooms. So look at the owl. Look at La Chusa, the owl witch. You've got a lot of things that fly around like that. They could be like you say, and I agree with you. It could be misconstrued for something else. You could say, "Oh, that looks like a gargoyle, but it could be a dragon." I mean, you can, anybody can make a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, that's what being human's all about. We make mistakes all the time. We're not infallible. We're not perfect. That's our flaw. Okay, our flaws are we're given free will, and because of free will, we make stupid human mistakes. And simple.
That's why so many times, William, when I've interviewed eyewitnesses that say they've seen something like Bigfoot or something like that, I always try to get them to put what they saw into perspective. Was it up against a tree? Was it up against something? That you can give me a size perspective, because your eyes can fool you that way. It's just the way your brain assimilates an image. You've got to be careful. So you've got to put it into perspective of what it is you're seeing, because that can throw you off. And that's what makes us so infallible, and that's what I've talked about so many times and warned people so much about pareidolia. Your mind can screw you up if you're not careful and make you think something is not what it really is. You've got to really, really, really guard against that in every aspect.
Yeah. Thank you, Tombstone.
So don't come telling me you saw a dragon when you saw a flying crane or something. You could mess up anybody. That can happen anyway. I mean, that's human. Like you said, it's very human to do that. That's just human.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah, I mean, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be ashamed of or disappointed in any way. It's just our imperfection. It's our ability to interpret things, and it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. And when we see
no
things, we try to catalog them. We try to catalog them in our mind. Is that what I'm seeing? Is that like what this is? Your mind can play tricks on you if you're not careful.
Exactly. And also you got being in law. Okay, that the longer it takes a witness to run a description, the more different the description is from the actual witness. the actual visual witness. The longer it takes to write down the description, the more you sometimes you embellish things. It's just a matter of being flawed. That's just what we are.
That's why
Our way of visual.
I've always told that to people. William, I preached it time after time. When you see something, write it down right then. Exactly what you saw, where you saw it, how you saw it, what you were with, what even the weather was. Write everything down, because later on, a few weeks down the road, you may have a slightly different thing going on here. That's just the way the mind works. Like you said, it tends to embellish things. And here's another thing. When we learn as children, we learn by example. And when we learn, we compare things with our mind. That's how we learn. We compare. Constantly, we're comparing stuff. Is this like this, or that like that, or something? That's just the way the human mind works. And it can throw you off. So it's very important why you need to record and put that record down immediately, as soon as possible, that from when it happened, because your memory can play tricks on you further on down the line.
To cut the shortness, because the so continue this tomorrow morning, and we're just basically, whatever we can. So on that note, I've got to say thank you to Joey, and thank you to Tombstone for following me on Twitch. Now on Twitch, I am going to be doing some different live podcast and some pre-recorded stuff, hopefully, if I can figure out how to do that. And the same thing with Rumble, because I can't, for some reason, StreamYard will not connect. Rumble. I have to use Rumble's own camera for. So, but look for that, okay? Because you'll be having Twitch notifications of me going live, or sometime I'm going to start doing that more often. Investigations, and want to have some eyes on things. So it'll come in handy. And for some reason, Twitch comes in better than Facebook and all that when I do a live solely from that site. So, thank you, Lori. I would appreciate that. We still got a ways to go to build our subscribership up on YouTube. So, we really need to put to be our subscribership to our podcast channel. We really to build that back. So, we went from 500, and now I think we had like 72 at last count. As channel up. YouTube will keep the algorithm unless we put that back. Yes, Joey, I am on Rumble. Yes, I am. Nighthawk High Strangeness is on Rumble. I made sure of that. Because we all need a backup too in case something happens for all that. We are on, and I'll cover everything too. We are on YouTube, Facebook, we are on Twitch, we are on Rumble, and we are on Twitter. Okay. The only thing we are not on is Pinterest and TikTok. Pinterest will not let us do any type of broadcasting unless we buy advertising. And I don't have that in my budget to buy advertising. TikTok, the only reason I'm not doing TikTok is because I'm not 19 to 25 years old and don't wear a bikini. Okay. That's why. Okay.
We don't want to cooperate with the
So,
Chinese either. There you go.
yeah, true. But TikTok is great for the younger groups. It really is. And there's some, we see some good TikTok video coming, through the feed and stuff through Facebook. Everybody and ingenious on what they're doing. So I give them credit. These young kids are doing great. They're voicing their opinions and they're being what they should be. They're being, part of the community. But I just don't prefer TikTok. I really don't. So you'll find us find us on Facebook. You'll find us on Instagram. You'll find us on Twitter. You'll fumble. Okay. So you all know. All right. Everybody, I want you to don't just base your encounters that you have on what Dennis and I discuss. Use your own insight too. Your best detective skill is your instinct. Okay, that's your best detective skill when you're investigating something. Is your instinct. What your instinct says. Okay, because your instinct is not going to guide you in the wrong place. Okay, stand in your faith because your faith is not going to falter. Okay, so with that being said, me and Dennis, we love this very much. You are definitely. So as weirdo warriors, go forth. Everything. You all Sunday morning, the weekend morning group. All right. So I just want to thank in the morning, Dennis Wolf, DC, and I can be at to sing when the winds calm down. We'll see. All right. Have a blessed Saturday.